Welcome back to another episode of the Jacksonville Buzz. This morning I have Dr. Christopher Perry from Dr. Christopher Perry DO LLC, which is a whole long title for Chris.
It is.
Good morning, sir.
Thank you.
Before we start babbling on about whatever you want to talk about, do let me take an opportunity to say thank you to your service to our great country. 24-year Navy guy.
That's correct.
All right, we were talking a little offset. You were a pilot,
right?
And you became a doctor.
Correct.
Talk to us a little bit about why a pilot goes to a doctor.
Yeah. So, being a pilot's amazing. I grew up like a lot of people in the 80s watching Top Gun, and I went to the Naval Academy, and that's what I wanted to do. And I graduated. I did that for 8 or 9 years, and I really enjoyed it. I did everything I wanted to do. I got to drop torpedoes and shoot Hellfire missiles and chase drug runners in South America. And I'd kind of gotten to the point in my career where I'd done all that. And becomes a point in your Navy career where you start flying a desk more than you start flying a helicopter. And I knew I wanted something different, something that mattered. And I also spent a lot of time training as a pilot. Like 97% of the time I'm training, and 3% of the time I'm doing the mission. And while it was a lot of fun, those 8 or 9 days I got to do Tom Clancy stuff that I still can't talk about. The rest of the time, the other thousands of days was training, and some simulators and off the coast of Jacksonville, boring holes in the sky. So my dad was a state trooper who died in the line of duty. My mom was a nurse who put herself through community college, and I felt like every day at the end of the day they did stuff that mattered. They saved lives. They took drunks off the street. They arrested people that needed to be arrested. And when they went home at the end of the day, they did something that really mattered, and they contributed to society more than I was doing. So I started looking around, and my mom allowed me to meet some doctors back at her hospital in Nashville. I took a week of leave. I went home, and I just went around the hospital in different places. I did some cancer stuff. I did surgery, but I got to the ER, and I still remember every patient I saw that day.
And that was the one.
Yeah,
that was the lightning rod by
exactly.
which your ability to fulfill your purpose of helping others was.
Absolutely.
Like ER,
Yeah.
right? Sucking chest wound.
Yeah.
You have coffee 15 minutes later, you're like, massive trauma.
Exactly.
I grew up very similar. I grew up in an Army family. My dad was a firefighter. My mom worked in a hospital. She was a phlebotomist, so the vampire of the hospital. Yeah, I get it all, man. I'm tracking.
Yeah.
So for the people that don't understand, I've had many DOs in my life playing soccer at a very high level.
Yeah.
Put me back together again.
Right.
What is the difference between an MD and a DO?
That's a great question. So it's becoming much more common in the United States. DOs have been around practicing full scope of medicine since World War II. Mm-hmm. They're equivalent. In fact, the residencies merged 10 years ago, so there's no difference in the residencies. They're all, but the difference mainly is in the training initially. The training for a DO versus an MD requires about 400 hours of manipulation training, similar to a chiropractor. We do some of the things they do, but a little bit more modalities. We believe that the body can heal itself in a lot of instances, especially for young, healthy people who play soccer.
Oh yeah.
The answer may not always be drugs. It may not always be surgery. It may not be injections. It could be manipulation. And for a certain subset of patients, that works really well. And as a helicopter pilot, my neck was destroyed. I was going to a chiropractor, and I said, I'm thinking about becoming a chiropractor. He's like, no, man, you need to be a DO. And like a lot of people, I was like, what's a DO?
Right.
And so I went and looked it up. And
thanks for calling me young and healthy, by the way. I appreciate that. I also grew up in the 80s. So just for everybody watching, there are 32 bones in your wrist, if I'm not mistaken. And so I had a DO. This bone right here got jammed funny, and like a Lego, if you will, popped up. So I had this weird little bump right here. And I literally, that one little teeny tiny bone that was probably the size of the tip of an eraser, I couldn't close my hand.
Yeah.
And I go to see the DO, and he's like, hold on a second, don't look. And I was like, don't tell me not to look, because then you can't not look. And then all of a sudden, of course, ibuprofen, much better than the hardcore drugs, and then all of a sudden. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing for the Jacksonville community, a little bit about emergency medicine. Sure. I know you're doing some work with the mayor. Like, there's all kinds of stuff. Doc, help us out, man.
Yeah. So I've been in Jacksonville in emergency medicine. I retired last year from the Naval Hospital, but I've been working out in 9 different hospitals all around Jacksonville, from the north to the beach, downtown, south side. And I get to see a lot of different Jacksonville. There's different populations, there's different needs in different places. But there's a huge need for emergency medicine and medicine in general in Jacksonville. Lots of people are moving here. They're bringing all their elderly family members from New York and California, and they need some place to land. I constantly see people who's like, all my health before has been in New York, and here I am. And so every hospital we build, it seems like it's busting at the seams, and we're putting people in the hallways within months of opening because we just need more and more. beds in Jacksonville. As far as like issues we're seeing in Jacksonville, drugs is a big problem. From everything, from meth is still around, diverting, narcotics and barbiturates is still a big problem. Fentanyl is a huge problem, synthetic fentanyl, people smoking fentanyl, doing all kinds of other stuff. And it's not uncommon, I'll see people that are on 3 different drugs at the same time in Jacksonville.
Illicit drugs.
Yes, and some that are illegally, purchased obtained.
So both prescription medication obtained illegally, and
Correct.
then the stuff that they cook.
Yeah.
You and I grew up in the same era in the referring to the 80s, which by the way was like 40 years ago. Just we're we're further away from 1980 than when we were kids from Pearl Harbor.
Thanks for pointing that out.
Put that one in your brain. It's right. Gone with the Wind. We look at Gone with the Wind the way our kids look at Back to the Future. Just
wow.
I know.
That's
Let that marinate for a minute.
Yeah.
But all right, so you're a doctor of emergency medicine around the city of Jacksonville. As we kind of take it away, there's a major initiative that Mayor Donna Dean. We talked a little offset. Would love to hear what you're doing for the mayor's office in the greater city of Jacksonville.
So I'm not really working with her. It's just something I've really been able to see how it's had an effect. She announced it recently. It's called Get Covered Jax, and the idea is for people who are uninsured to stop receiving their primary care in emergency rooms in Jacksonville, because it's absurdly expensive to either the taxpayers, depending on the hospital you're going to, or the other insured people who are going there paying their regular bills. It's the most expensive way to get your primary care. Emergencies, that's what we're here for. That's what I signed up for. But some of the stuff, to get routine exams and labs and stuff like that, that's stuff we don't do.
You do it, but you're not supposed to do it
exactly.
at an ER.
And I have 8 or 9 sick people that are really there for emergencies that I'm having to put on the back burner to deal with these kind of things. So anyway, what we do is there's a button I click now and I discharge these people, and a case manager from this institution will contact these people and these are your options in Jacksonville if you don't have insurance. There's Sulzbacher Clinic, there's these other things, there's Medicaid to get them hooked on. So I've noticed in that amount of time that less people are uninsured, that are coming in. They have some sort of health insurance, and it seems to be working a little bit.
Awesome. Well, I can go on and on and on. Yeah. Growing up in the military, I do value the joint manipulation thing. I had both knees blown out. And what actually saved me from having to be under the knife, I know it's coming. I know it's coming. I'm just trying to push it off. I actually had a DO push my kneecap back together again when I had a horrific knee injury that actually cost me, most likely, a professional soccer career. But I'm able to walk.
Yeah.
The pain's not bad, and I'm very grateful for what you do as a medical doctor. I'm very grateful for what you're doing for our great country, retired. As we take it away, is there anything that you want to leave our audience with?
There's one more organization out there that's fantastic, between Sulzbacher. These are places you can donate to that actually do a lot of God's work in the city. The other one is called Project Save Lives. These are former drug addicts that are now taking their time to spend in our ERs. And if I see somebody who's struggling with substance abuse, I can have these people go talk to them, get them signed up, get them helping on the path of sobriety.
That's awesome.
It's a great program.
Doc, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it. Guys, thanks for joining us on the Jacksonville Buzz. We'll hang all his stuff on the Daily News Network. If you like us, share us. Remember, live with gratitude.